Hey, friends, welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast, where we talk about everything happening in the book world, all the opinions I can't keep to myself, and of course, what is currently on my nightstand. I am LaShawn, and I am so glad that you are here, friends. How was your week, friends? I actually finished a book, and yes, that is a feat because it's been hard for me lately, and I'll tell you about that book in a little bit. I watched one fandom freak out over the color gradient of books and if they would match their current set, and another freak out when an actor who plays a fictional character on the screen cut his hair. Yeah, it's been a week. But anyway, I thought I had no news for you and I was just going to dive in until right before I hit record on this podcast. But here it is. Amazon just quietly increased the prices of their Kindles by $40 to $50 each. In this economy, that's a lot, friends. This is the first time that Amazon has increased their e-reader prices in a very long time. So maybe that's why it's such a chic sticker shock. An Amazon spokeswoman verified the price increases in a statement to Fortune magazine, attributing them to significant increases in memory and storage component costs, end quote. Yeah. So that means, friends, let me tell you what that means for you. So that means that the basic Kindle, the one that is always hovering around $100, is now $149. The Paperwhite Kindle that was $159.99 is now $199.99. That's an additional $40. The Kindle Kids was $129 and is now $179.99, which why? That's an extra $50. And the Kindle Paperwhite Kids was $179.99 and is now $229.99, also an extra $50. And the Kindle Colorsoft was $249 and is now $289. The kids one was $269.99 and is now $299.99. And the Kindle Colorsoft 32 gigabytes, the one that I have that I got in 2024 when they first came out, when I thought they were expensive then, is now $319. I did not pay $319, friends. I think I paid about $200. I had some trade-ins and stuff, but I still think even with that, it was like, because I think the original price around that time was like $250 for it, and it had gone down significantly by last Christmas. The price had decreased. I mean, you was getting, I saw them around the 200 mark. So I would have screamed at paying $319, and I would not have my Kindle Color. So I would not. I would have gone somewhere else. Someone in an article mentioned that the price might go down again around the holidays when they regularly go on sale, usually, but will they? And will they go down? Like, will they go down to more reasonable prices? I don't know what Amazon is going to do. And sometimes I think that they hike these prices so that they can bring them back down to normal prices when they have quote unquote these sale days. So that is also something to think about. My issue with this, besides the price, is that Amazon owns this whole ecosystem that people are now dependent on. You know, Kindle books, the Kindle device, Kindle Unlimited. It's all wrapped up in this now expensive ass device. We can't even read other reading universes on it. Like, you can't read your books from the Nook. You can't, that's from Barnes and Noble. You can't read your Apple books. You can't read, say, your books from NetGalley or your books from bookshop.org. Everyone has to have their own separate little app because they cannot integrate with Kindle because Kindle does not allow it. So, you know, that's the thing. Sure, you can read it on the app on your phone, but with so many people trying to get away with being chained to our devices and not strain our eyes, the Kindle is the perfect option or a e-reader device. So as the holiday season comes closer, I'm going to start looking for Kindle alternatives for those who want something else, those who don't want to be tied to Amazon and depend on them for their books. So look for that closer to the holidays season. Anyway, now that we've got that little bit of news out the way, today I want to talk about end of the summer reading. I think we can all agree that summer reading and its season is unfortunately coming to an end. And you may be like me and just running out of time to read all of the good books you thought you wanted to read. And maybe you are like me and you're a little bit indecisive right now. So you might resort to rereading your favorites rather than making a real decision. Okay, that's just me. Okay, moving on. Anyway, I wanted to help people like me who may be paralyzed with indecision, or maybe you just want a good recommendation for your last, holiday book, like over Labor Day or something like that. Well, friends, I've got you. I've got you. I've got 5 book recs divided into 5 categories so that there is something for everyone. I've got a long book, a short book, a nonfiction book, a romance, and a thriller. Okay, something for everyone, like I said. So let's get started. Okay, the first book I want to suggest is a long book, and it is The Calamity Club by Catherine Stockett. This book is 640 pages. It's long. Let me tell you what it's about. Oxford, Mississippi, 1933. Abandoned by her mother one Christmas Eve, 11-year-old Meg LaFleur has learned the hard way to rely on no one. Now, one of the unadoptable big girls at the Lafayette County Orphan Asylum, she fights each day to keep her spirit unbowed. Burley Callum, unmarried and outspoken, has come to Oxford to ask her socialite sister to help the struggling family she's left behind. But as the depression tightens its grip, Bertie discovers her sister's seemingly charmed life is a tapestry of lies. Then Bertie encounters Charlie, a woman running low on her luck with little left to lose. When their fates and Meg's converge, Charlie comes up with an audacious plan for them to take control of their lives. But in a place and time where hypocrisy is rife and women's freedom is fragile, even the smallest act of defiance can have dangerous consequences. This is on my own personal TBR. I have friends who have read it and friends who are reading it, and I think all of them are enjoying the book. I've heard nothing but good things. I haven't heard anything bad. So I feel confident in recommending this one. And this actually, I might read this one sooner rather than later. We'll see. Now, I'll give you the opposite, a short book. And I'm going to recommend All Systems Red by Martha Wells. In a corporate dominated spacefaring future, planetary missions must be approved and supplied by the company. Exploratory teams are accompanied by company supplied security androids for their own safety. But in a society where contracts are awarded to the lowest bidder, safety isn't always a primary concern. On a distant planet, a team of scientists are conducting surface tests shadowed by their company supplied droid, a self-aware sec unit that has hacked its own governor module and refers to itself, though never out loud, as Murderbot. Scornful of humans, all it really wants is to be left alone long enough to figure out who it is. But when a neighboring mission goes dark, it's up to the scientists and their Murderbot to get to the truth. I talked about this one last week when I read it. It's a great, it's great, really. It starts off really fast and it ends really fast. So you get an actual story in between. But coming in at 160 pages, you really can't beat this one if you just need a quick beach read or you just need a quick read one afternoon. It's great. And you can add something to your TBR quickly and say, oh, I read this book this month. The next one I want to recommend is a nonfiction book. And for that one, I'm going to go with London Fallen, A Mysterious Death in the Gilded City and Family Search for Truth by Patrick Radden Keefe. In 2019, Zach Bretler was found dead after falling from a luxury London tower. His grieving parents, Rachel and Matthew, struggled to understand why their son, who didn't seem suicidal, had died. After his death, they discovered that Zach had been living a secret double life as Zach Ismailov. Ismailov? Is that how you pronounce it? The heir to a Russian fortune. His deception led him into a dangerous world of shady businessmen and notorious gangster. As his parents investigated, they uncovered troubling questions surrounding his death and became convinced that Zach's story was far more sinister than suicide. I read this earlier this year and it literally reads like a thriller. So I highly recommend this nonfiction work. And the author, he's really good and making you feel like you're in the middle of a story instead of just a retelling of something that really happened. So the next category that I want to recommend is a romance, and I'm going to recommend The Missed Connection by Tia Williams. Sasha Cruz knows types. As a booked and busy casting agent, she's always casting. Happy hours at the grocery stores, everywhere. She's all about finding the perfect person to slot into the perfect role. What she doesn't do, however, is relationships. Too much energy, not enough time. On a flight to Paris for work, a chance encounter with with her, a chance encounter with her type changes everything. Sasha's seated next to a broodingly attractive mystery man and sparks fly, but they never exchange contact information. Convinced she's lost out on her soulmate, Sasha emails her work friend for help, but accidentally writes to the entire company worldwide. The international manhunt to find her at CF begins. Meanwhile, Sasha takes matters into her own hands and hires a smoldering detective she knew in another lifetime who complicates matters in unforeseen and irresistible ways. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I think it's the perfect book to read beside the pool, on the beach, on the couch, in a hammock. It's just in the bed. It's a fun and easy read, simple rom-comish book. It's got a few like undertones of seriousness in there, but for the most part, this was just, exactly what you want it to be. And it's perfect for the summertime. And the last category that I want to recommend is a thriller, and I'm going to recommend Helpless by Jessica Knoll. Faye Heron seems to have it all: a successful career, a wealthy Hollywood husband, and a life built on her version of the past. But when her former professor dies, Faye returns to campus and encounters Henry Spalding, her obsessive first love. After he drugs and kidnaps her, she awakens imprisoned in his remote cabin. As Faye fights to uncover why she was taken, she begins questioning everything she remembers. What really happened between her and Henry years ago? What caused her professor's death? And can Faye trust her own memories? Yes, this one is on my own personal to be read list. It sounds fascinating, and I actually read the first chapter, and yes, it is really fascinating. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to keep reading after I read that first chapter or finish a book that I already started, but I highly recommend it so far. Okay, so I hope that with that list, you find something to add to your TBR to read before the end of the summer. And whatever you read, if you read something from this list, please let me know so that we can talk about it. Okay, now let's talk about my own. I just finished reading Air of Prophecy by Annalie Esbrana. Let me tell you what it's about. Magic has always been at the periphery of Audra's life. As a human, she knows that magic exists, but it's as distant as the legend she grew up with. Until one day, magic returns, bringing with it the all too real Fae and upending Audra's life entirely. Abducted by a cult of Fae priestesses, Audra finds herself constricted into a magical war academy. The only hope of surviving this new world filled with guilds, magic, and danger is to band together with a group of her fellow prisoners. Though, unlike others, Audra's burgeoning magic is erratic and violent, just as the prophecy foretold. She must discover what it means to be the heir, but time is running out. The priestesses know the heir moves among them, and they're determined to root them out, no matter what it takes. As she struggles to mask her power, Audra's plagued by visions of a dark, seductive being with conflicting truth. He doesn't want to save the world. He plans to reclaim it. That was the publisher's blurb. I have many thoughts in this book, and let me start by saying I did enjoy it. I listened to this one while on my morning walks, so it took me about a week to read it. It kept me engaged, and I was always eager to find out what was going to happen next. That being said, there were, however, a few things that annoyed me, and this is probably, let me just say, okay, so the pacing was a bit off. And I think that is because Audra, our main character, rambled. My God. There was a lot of world building, and I could see that the easiest way to get us that info was in the school setting since we were already there. And so this qualifies as a darkish academia, I guess you can say. So during the school lessons that she was in, we got a lot of information, like information dumps that I didn't really remember all the information because it was just so much of it. And sometimes that dragged because I was like, okay, move it along. And I spent a lot of time, and Audra herself had a lot of internal monologue. And I spent a lot of time like, Audra, girl, get to the points because her monologues sometimes drag the story. I know it was meant to give us insight to how she was thinking, but she thought a lot. I was unsure if this was supposed to be romantasy or dark academia until about 90% in. And yes, there is a difference. And one day I really have to talk about that. About 90% in, when we finally got a scene, quote unquote. And this wasn't, I mean, it was a version of sex. I mean, can I say, it was oral sex. And so at 90%, that lands us about a 1.5 on my jalapeno pepper scale. Like, it's not it wasn't closed door, but you could say it was a slow burn. It was the slowest burn because up until that point, I wasn't even sure that he was romantically interested in her or that she was really romantically interested in him. Attraction and romance is two different things because she was attracted to everybody. Not everybody, but she was attracted to quite a few. And so there was no like pull between them. Like there was like this pull, but it was more a magic of what they were to each other pull instead of romantic pull. So it took me a while to be like, okay, so this is a slow burn. But to be honest, this felt more like a fantasy book that had a romance subplot rather than a romantasy, which I like if the story is good. I wish this had been a standalone, but I can understand why there was just so much information to give us about this world in the first book that couldn't happen unless the book was much, much longer. And it ended just how I told Audra it should, around the 50% mark. When I said, girl, stop being stupid. I literally was on my walk and was like, girl, stop being stupid. Like I said, I listened to this one and the narrator, because it's a dual narration, but there's not much of him, but it's a dual narration. But the narrator, I cannot figure out what other book I have heard her voice in before, but I know I have. And so okay. I just figured out where I've heard her before, and it's in Score, Kennedy Bryan's Score. I knew I had heard that voice before. I knew it. And that's the thing when you read a lot of audiobooks, sometimes the same people do some of your favorites. And I knew that voice. She also did Big Girl Blitz, which I have, and I have to read that one. And okay, all right. That's why I've heard her voice before. I'm looking at what she's done and I'm like, yes, I've heard her in more than one book. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Anyway, let's get back to this book. Will I read the next book? Of course, because now that I've read it, I need to know, what happened. I need to know what happens next because it left us on sort of a cliffhanger, of course. I don't know if this is supposed to be a duology or if it's going to be a trilogy or how many books is going to be in this, but I will stick around at least for the next book because I want to know what happens. So I gave this one a 3.75 out of 5 stars, and I do recommend it. If you like dark academia, read it. I won't tell you it's a romantasy though, but I think if you're curious, read it. Okay, now what I am currently reading, I have a list of digital advanced reader copies that I need to get to for September and some for August that I just did not get to. It's a whole thing that's kind of stressing me out. But anyway, there's so many books and so little time. So I picked up a holiday romance. I know. But go with me here. Go with me. I picked up Grim Tidings by B.K. Borison, which is being released on September 15th. This is the second in her Ghosted series. I absolutely adored the first one, so I couldn't wait for this one. Darcy Moore is tired of death, which would be fine and good if she wasn't the Grim Reaper. Determined to outrun her designation as a villain, Darcy decides she won't be dragging her next assignment to the underworld. She'll be saving him instead. Unfortunately for Darcy, there's a complication in her plan. Guardian angel Gabriel Atos doesn't tolerate threats to his little corner of the world, and a Grim Reaper showing up at his bar is as deadly as it gets. But when he realizes Darcy is not as she seems, Gabriel must decide if he can trust his growing feelings or hold on to his long-standing grudge. But magic doesn't come without consequences, and the Department of Haunting and Spirits will eventually come calling for their missing Reaper. So I can't wait. It makes me giggle. And I love holiday romances. And usually I'm really a stickler for, the seasons and separating them. But I figure, it's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read that. soon. And for my morning walks, because I have been influenced by my friend Jennifer, who is currently reading it for the first time, I picked up Fourth Wing again. I have the graphic audio version, so that's been fun to revisit. I haven't reread that book since the last one came out last year, so it's been fun to revisit the world, and I'm going to enjoy slowly making my way through that one. And for my physical book, I'm still working on Summer Girlfriend by Christina Forrest. Hopefully, I will finish that one up by the time I talk to you next week because it really is a cute little summer romance, fake dating type situation. Okay, friends, that is all I have for you today. As always, if you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us to grow and find other bookish friends. And if you want to watch me and contribute to my watch hours over on YouTube, this episode is over there also. If you'd like to connect with me, you can email me at pornoverbookspod@gmail.com. And you can also connect with me over on my personal IG and TikTok at LaShawn Woods. Okay, friends. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.